If you grew up in 1970s Britain, you'll remember a childhood that seems almost impossible now. You'll remember playing out until the streetlights came on, the taste of space dust crackling on your tongue, the smell of your mom's Charlie perfume, and the sound of chopper bike chains rattling down the street. This wasn't just a different time, it was a different world. And if you lived it, these memories will hit you right in the heart. Prepare yourself, because we're going back. Summer evenings in the 1970s meant one thing: freedom. Your mom would open the front door after tea and out you'd go, not returning until the streetlights flickered on or you heard your name being bellowed from a doorstep. Nobody knew where you were, and nobody worried. You roamed the neighborhood in packs, creating adventures from nothing, and it was glorious. The streets were your kingdom. Kirby meant hours spent bouncing a ball off the curb trying to hit your mate's legs. British Bulldog in the park left everyone with scraped knees and grass stains. You built dens in overgrown gardens and bomb sites that hadn't been cleared from the war. Knockdown Ginger was the ultimate thrill. Rapping on doors, then sprinting away, hearts pounding, hiding behind hedges whilst I-8 residents shouted into the darkness. Every street had its gang of kids, and you knew every child within a mile radius. Bikes were freedom machines, choppers with their massive back wheels and gear sticks, grifters that weighed a ton, and if you were lucky, a rally burner. You'd ride for hours, building ramps from planks and bricks, attempting stunts that should have broken bones. The magic was the complete absence of supervision, the trust that you'd survive, and the glorious sense that the world was yours to explore. What time did the streetlights come on? What was your favorite street game? Saturday morning meant racing downstairs in your pajamas, grabbing a bowl of Sugar Puffs or Frosties, and planting yourself inches from the telly for hours of pure joy. Multicolored Swap Shop with Noel Edmonds was unmissable, running from Court 9 until 12. The phone in competitions, the swapping, the music, and Posh Paws, the dog puppet that everyone loved. Tiswas was the alternative. Absolute chaos compared to Swap Shop's BBC Polish. Chris Tarrant, Sally James, Lenny Henry throwing custard pies, water everywhere, the cage for naughty adults, and that beautiful anarchy that made parents was. You were either Swap Shop or Tiso, and playground arguments about which was better could get heated. The cartoons were brilliant. Deputy Dog, Hong Kong Phooey, Scooby-Doo, Top Cat, all with proper British voices. Nobody interrupted Saturday morning telly. Your parents lay in grateful for the peace, knowing you were safe and occupied. There was no on-demand, no choice beyond 2 channels. If you missed it forever. The adverts were part of the experience. Milky Bar, Kid, Bongo, Ready Brex, Central Heating Glow. Saturday morning television was ritual, a shared national experience that every child participated in simultaneously. Those mornings were pure magic. The corner shop was your second home, a treasure trove that existed purely to make childhood brilliant. Mr. Patel or Mrs. Jones behind the counter knew your name, your family, how much pocket money you got, and would occasionally let you off a penny if you were short. Walking in meant bells jangling and that distinctive smell. Newspapers, sweets, tobacco, and something indefinably old-fashioned. The sweet selection was overwhelming and everything cost next to nothing. Blackjacks and fruit salads were a half-penny each, 4 for a penny. Sherbet fountains, flying saucers, gobstoppers that lasted for days. Refreshers, Palmer violets that tasted like soap, but you bought them anyway. 10p could buy a feast, a curly-whirly, some Bazooka Joe bubble gum with its tiny comic and still have change. Penny chews were genuinely a penny. Space dust exploded on your tongue like mild electricity. Cola cubes, pineapple chunks, rhubarb, and custard-boiled sweets in paper bags weighed out on scales. The corner shop sold everything. Bread, milk, fire lighters, cigarettes served to children sent on errands. It was community glue, the place where you learned to count money and interact with adults. When corner shops closed, replaced by supermarkets, neighborhoods lost something irreplaceable. The 1970s weren't all sunshine and innocence. The 3-day week in early 1974 hit families hard. Though as children, parts of it felt like an adventure. Power cuts were scheduled and candles and torches became essential equipment. The telly would go off mid-program, plunging rooms into darkness, and everyone would groan, then adapt. Homework by candlelight felt Victorian and exciting, though the novelty wore off quickly. Your dad would be furious because he was only working 3 days a week. Money was tight and the bins weren't being collected because of strikes. Rubbish piled up in the streets. Your mom cooked on a camping stove when the electric was off, making meals feel like an expedition, even though you were in your own kitchen. The TV schedule changed because there wasn't enough power for full broadcasting. Programs ended earlier and you'd watch by candlelight. Battery-powered radios became crucial. Children thought power cuts were exciting, whilst parents worried about heating, hot water, and whether dad's reduced wages would cover bills. Strikes were everywhere. Miners, transport workers, dustbin men. But British people pulled together, helped neighbors, shared candles and milk, and got through it with typical stoicism. Looking back at 1970s, fashion makes you wonder what everyone was thinking. But at the time, you thought you looked amazing. Boys wore tank tops knitted by their nans in horrifying color combinations over shirts with collars so wide you could glide. Flared trousers were so wide you could hide contraband down the bells, and platform shoes added inches that made walking treacherous. Girls had it even worse or better depending on your perspective. Hot pants were genuinely hot in summer, often homemade. Midi skirts, maxi skirts, cheesecloth, everything. And those terrible crimpling dresses in psychedelic patterns. Platform shoes for girls were architectural marvels that twisted ankles regularly but looked fantastic with your flares. Hair was a statement. Boys grew it long, center partings, curtains of hair that drove teachers mad. Feather cuts were everywhere, inspired by Farrah Fawcett. Perms frizzed hair into disasters that took years to grow out. Tank tops deserve special mention for being the most 70s garment. Imaginable sleeveless, V-necked, diamond-patterned horrors, usually in brown, orange, and mustard yellow. The clothes were often homemade because buying ready-made was expensive. Fashion was hideous, glorious, and absolutely of its time. Sundays in the 1970s followed a pattern as reliable as sunrise. The day started with lying in bed listening to Junior Choice on Radio 1, Ed Stewart playing requests, children's names read out, proper songs mixed with novelty records. If your request was played, you felt like a celebrity. Sunday dinner was sacred. The whole family sat down together at a proper table for roast meat, roast potatoes, Yorkshire puddings, if it was beef, vegetables boiled until they surrendered all nutrition and gravy. Your mom had been cooking since mid-morning. Nobody was allowed to be late, and using the right cutlery mattered. Pudding was always something stodgy. Apple crumble, trial sponge, rice pudding served with custard. After dinner, Sunday television had its own rhythm. The big match at 4 suck. Songs of praise if your nan was visiting. Sunday evening meant school tomorrow. That sinking feeling in your stomach. Bath night whether you needed it or not. Polishing school shoes. Checking your PE kit. Sunday nights smelled of Brasso and shoe polish and resigned acceptance that the weekend was over. Sundays were structured, familial, and safe. 1970s homes had a distinctive smell that's impossible to recreate. It was cigarette smoke because everyone smoked everywhere. Pledge furniture polish that your mom used religiously every week. And whatever was cooking, usually something involving mince or sausages. Walking into your house after school meant that smell hitting you, meaning safety and home. Cooking smells were different from today. Frying was the default method for almost everything. Sunday's roast permeated every room. Your mom used Bestow gravy granules, smash instant potato, Angel Delight for pudding. OXO cubes simmering in water smelled like actual cooking, even though it was just a stock cube. Food didn't smell fresh or healthy. It smelled comforting and filling. Personal smells are powerful memory triggers. Your mom's perfume, Charlie, Aquamander, or if she was going somewhere special. Your dad's brute aftershave that he slapped on liberally. The tobacco everyone smoked. Embassy, Benson, and Hedges. Roll-ups if money was tight. Coal fires gave houses a smoky smell. When you stayed at your nan, her house smelled of mothballs, lavender, and overboiled vegetables. These smells are gone now, but if you could bottle them, they would transport you back instantly. 1970s toys were brilliant because they were genuinely dangerous. Health and safety hadn't been invented yet, and toys were designed to be fun, not safe. Clackers, those acrylic balls on strings that you swung to make them clack together, could shatter and send shards into your face. They were eventually banned, but not before every child had a pair. Space hoppers were accidents waiting to happen, bouncing around on an inflatable ball with no helmet, no padding, inevitably crashing into walls, furniture, or younger siblings. Chopper bikes with their high handlebars and massive back wheels tipped backwards if you pedaled too hard uphill. The gear stick between your legs was positioned perfectly to cause serious injury during accidents. Chemistry sets contained actual dangerous chemicals. You could conduct experiments that occasionally resulted in small fires or noxious fumes. Action Man had realistic weapons. Toy soldiers were made of lead, which everyone now knows is poisonous, but back then you'd suck them whilst playing. Roller skates were metal contraptions that sent you flying at the slightest crack in the pavement. The danger was part of the appeal. You learned to be careful through painful experience. School in the 1970s was a different beast from today's education. Teachers ruled absolutely, and physical punishment was not just allowed, but expected. The cane was used for serious offenses administered to your hand or backside, and you dare not tell your parents because you'd be punished again at home for getting in trouble at school. Lesser punishments were creative and humiliating. The slipper across your backside for talking in class. The board rubber thrown with alarming accuracy at your head if you weren't paying attention. Standing in the corner facing the wall for the entire lesson. Writing lines hundreds of times. I must not talk in class. Your hand would ache. But you finished them or faced worse. Teachers could grab you, shake you, yank you by your hair or ear, and nobody questioned it. The headim's office was terrifying. Parents sided with teachers automatically. School dinners were prison food. Gray mince, lumpy mashed potato, cabbage boiled into submission. You ate everything on your plate or sat there until you did. Dinner ladies were drill sergeants who tolerated no nonsense. Despite the harshness, or perhaps because of it, most children learned, behaved, and emerged educated. What really makes you cry about growing up in 1970s? Britain isn't any single thing. It's the accumulated feeling of a childhood that's impossible now. The freedom was real. Your mom didn't know where you were for hours, and that was normal. The community was tight because people stayed put, knew their neighbors, and relied on each other. Life was simpler, not because it was objectively better, but because there were fewer choices, less distraction, and more presence. You lived in the moment because there was no alternative. No phones meant no documenting everything, no social media comparison, no digital permanence. Boredom was normal, even beneficial, forcing creativity and imagination. Friendships were deeper because you couldn't just text. You had to actually see people, make plans, show up. The 1970s weren't perfect. They were marked by economic struggle, strikes, power cuts, casual racism, and sexism that was accepted as normal. But for children, there was a magic that's vanished. The magic of unsupervised adventure, of a country that trusted its children to roam and make mistakes. That trust is gone, replaced by supervised playdates and constant monitoring. We gained safety and lost wildness. Looking back makes you cry, not because the 70s were objectively better, but because they were yours, and that time is gone forever. If you grew up in 1970s Britain, these memories are yours forever. The chopper bikes, the corner shop penny sweets playing out until dark Saturday morning television, and that distinctive smell of home. We were lucky to experience a childhood full of freedom, adventure, and a sense that the world was ours to explore. Give this video a thumbs up if it brought back memories. Share it with someone who remembers these times. Subscribe for more nostalgic journeys through British life. Drop a comment telling us what you remember most about growing up in the 70s. Until next time, hold those memories close